What's up, guys? Tyler here from the Scruffy Looking Nerders podcast. So I wanted to preface this episode with a massive thank you because I'm celebrating 1 year, and that's insane. I never would have thought this hobby that I started a year ago would have gotten to where it is right now and where it is today. And I'm just still completely blown away by that. And I just wanted to give you guys a massive thank you because without your guys' help, I wouldn't have gotten to where it is right now, doing stuff with audio drama episodes, growing it to where I do history of like pop culture characters, and even doing like comic convention coverage and soon game convention coverage. So without your guys' help and your support and your listening and you following, all that stuff I ask you to do after each episode, without all of that, I wouldn't have been able to get where I am today. So I am forever grateful, and I love you guys from the bottom of my nerdy heart. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and thank you so much. Hello there, and welcome to the Scruffy Looking Nerders podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, bringing you news on all things nerd and geek related. This week, I'm bringing you news on Tales from the Borderlands, Star Wars, Firefly, and so much more. So, here we go. First off, let me start by saying that unfortunately this week's episode will not be a history of episode. I had originally planned to have that ready, but as we all know in life, when you try to plan ahead, life has its way of sliding a stick right through the spokes of your bicycle. So I'm hoping to have it ready by next week. I just have a little bit more research to complete for it, and then I can record it. Secondly, also due to life happening, I have not been able to complete the editing on the VisionCon 2019 video, but now that I'm playing catch up and I've set goals for myself, I'm completing these goals. Next up, after the history of episode, my goal is to complete that video. So I'm hoping to have that video completed by mid next week. So keep an eye out for that on YouTube, Facebook, and possibly IGTV on Instagram. So that way, when it shows up, you can like, you can comment, you can share it. So keep an eye for it. Third, I am still taking submissions for backstories for the playable characters episodes. So if you would like to submit your playable characters backstory to have read as an audio drama, you can email me at slnhpodcast@gmail.com and just title your email PC submission. Lastly, I will be attending Game Expo in Springfield, Missouri in October. So if you will be there, let's grab a drink, grab some delicious foodstuffs, talk Dungeons and Dragons, talk fantasy stuff. We can talk video games. We can talk whatever. Just hang out. So if you're going to be there, let me know, because I'm really looking forward to this and doing coverage on this one like I did with VisionCon. First up, on the gaming report, this comes from Ethan Gatch over at Kotaku. So Valve recently removed the option to buy the Telltale developed series Tales from the Borderlands on Steam. And Good Old Games has announced it will no longer be selling any of Telltale's games starting May 27th. Nobody seems to know why. Reddit user Andreas Pyers, I'm not sure, first spotted that Tales from the Borderlands had lost its purchase option on Steam just after midnight this morning. A few hours later, a customer relations representative for Good Old Games posted on the digital marketplace's forums that all Telltale games would soon be leaving the store, saying, "Sadly, we need to inform you that due to the company's closure, all the remaining Telltale titles will be delisted from our catalog on Monday, May 27th, 10 a.m. UTC. So there's still some time if you want to try to get those games digitally before, you have a couple of days. You have until Monday. Still plenty of time. Some of the other Telltale games soon to be removed from GOG include The Wolf Among Us, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, and Batman the Telltale series. They go on to say, "We've received an official agreement termination and title takedown notice for all Telltale titles, and we are processing it within the appropriate time frame," a spokesperson for GOG told Kotaku in an email. So, this is interesting to me that it's been almost a year or so, or it may have been longer. I'm not sure, since the fallout of Telltale Games shutting down, and there's still this residual aftermath of it. And I know 2K Games has said that they're looking into finding a venue to host this game, though they've declined to elaborate as to why the game has been removed from digital storefronts. This is one reason why, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I really dislike digital marketplaces, whether they are for gaming, for books, for music, for movies, because at any time the host can pull any of the products that you've purchased and you are out money. If they no longer carry the rights to distribute that, then you're SOL. And in regards to Tales from the Borderlands, if I were to be a betting man, which I am not, I would put money on this game popping up on the Epic Games storefront relatively soon. Next up on the gaming report, this story comes from Richard Lawler over at Engadget. So, veteran software developer Panic, best known for writing Transmit and publishing Firewatch, has unveiled a handheld game system called Playdate that aims to break the rules of game consoles. It has this flip-out crank that looks like a fishing lure, like a fishing rod crank kind of thing, that serves as an analog controller, plus a monochrome 400 by 240 LCD that takes us back to the days of Game Boy, but promises a quote-unquote premium experience even without a backlight. So games for this console will arrive in what they're calling seasons of 12, released once per week, without any word of which one is next. However, one title announced is Kraken's time travel adventure from Katamari creator Kita Takahashi. Wow, I said that right. I'm really proud of myself. The portable will ship in sometime in 2020 for $150 with the first season of games included. Supplies have been stated to be extremely limited. So this just looks ridiculous. This thing is super tiny, and I know it comes with 12 games, but the price is not worth it. It's $150. And I think that if you want to try to get that Game Boy experience, just go buy a damn Game Boy, because there's already literally hundreds of games on the Game Boy that you can play. So if there's a type of game that you want to play, I'm sure you can just find it on the Game Boy. Download an emulator if you want, and download Game Boy emulator, like Game Boy ROMs. Like, I just feel like this is such a niche product that will be something that only console and handheld collectors will purchase. You know, and I don't want to judge a book by its cover, but this just seems like it's going to be a flop. I will say, if I ever do get my hands on one, I will gladly do a review of it. But I'm not going to drop $150 on something that's like the size of a Post-it note. Like, this thing is so tiny. So lastly, I'm going to go ahead and tack this on to the gaming report. But right now, you can get the #1 rated board game on Board Game Geek for the lowest price it's ever been. That's right. You can get Gloomhaven for the low price of $93 on Amazon. Now, I know $93 seems steep for a board game, but every single review and every single gameplay video that I have watched on Gloomhaven makes that price tag the exception. Like, I know that seems ridiculous for a board game, but this is the exception to that rule. Seriously, if you're looking for an extended campaign-esque tabletop game from every gameplay video, which I haven't played it yet, but I've watched so many people play this game looks like a blast. And there's a reason why it's the #1 game on BoardGameGeek.com. So, and if you can't get it, I know this game has been like limited supply and it's been sold out and like not in print for a while, and there's a possibility that it may happen again. So if a good alternative for this, if you're looking for an extended type gameplay experience, I highly recommend checking out Zombicide. That game is a blast, and they have like a fantasy setting, they have a modern setting, and there's even people online who do stuff with not modding, but adjusting it to where you can have superheroes and stuff like that. So highly recommend checking out Zombicide if you cannot get your hands on Gloomhaven. But like I said, it's $93 on Amazon, so I highly recommend getting it if you're interested in board games or tabletop games at all. So moving on to movie news. So first up, this year marked the 20th anniversary for Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. My son and I sat down and rewatched it, which worked out due to the subject matter for the history of episode that I'm working on. Wink, wink. But I will say now that other than Jar Jar Binks and political stuff that just goes right over the heads of children, this movie isn't actually that bad. I mean, there's some pretty cringe dialogue, extremely dated CGI, and the dreaded Jedi lightsaber rave fight scenes, but it did give us a lot of cool shit, like Darth Maul, double-bladed lightsabers, the build-up for the Clone Army, which gave us the Clone Wars show, pod racing, which gave us one of the most iconic Nintendo 64 games, and we got to see Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor as frickin' Jedi. So, I mean, it gave us a lot of cool stuff. But it's crazy how the prequels still captivate young minds and enthrall them into the Star Wars universe. Like, my son had already seen it, but the prequels and the sequel movies definitely hold his attention more than the original trilogy. I mean, don't get me wrong, he still loves those movies. Like, we'll watch Empire Strikes Back all day long if it was up to him. But the way that the prequels and the sequels were filmed and things that were added to them, I think definitely helped grasp the attention of younger audiences in this modern era. So I think that's something I can say about the prequel movies for sure, is that they definitely helped capture that young audience from that time of when they were released. Similar to how the original trilogy did it for the younger minds during the time it was released. But speaking of Star Wars, with Rise of the Skywalker coming out this year, it is looking to change things up a bit in a major way according to the newest rumor. What will change? Well, apparently there will be no more Sith, no more Jedi, and no more lightsabers. In the recent reveal in Vanity Fair, there was an interesting bit of information that has been circulating throughout the many, many Star Wars Facebook groups that I'm in, and it comes from an unnamed source. Sources close to the movie say that Skywalker will at long last bring to a climax the millennia-long conflict between the Jedi Order and its dark shadow, the Sith. Now, most are taking this info at complete face value, but one thing we should definitely keep in mind is that J.J. Abrams doesn't always deal in literal meanings. So, this could mean that the Jedi could evolve into more of how Qui-Gon Jinn or even Jolee Bindo was in Knights of the Old Republic, the game, and not be fanatical to the light side of the Force. I mean, those two kind of walked the line of what people call quote-unquote gray Jedi, which I hate that term and I despise it. I think it's dumb, but more of a lenient Jedi, I guess would be the best way to put it. But how will this affect the Sith? That's one thing that keeps, being brought up, and people are trying to discuss it, and most people, they can't really think of much other than maybe they will be eradicated. And I'm not sure. I do know that the speculation has always been, since these movies came out, it's been one of my favorite things about these new Star Wars movies. And let's just hope that it doesn't hurt the bottom line of the movie, like how fan theories and headcanon hurt The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. Because I can't remember how many videos I saw of people claiming when The Force Awakens trailer came out that Kylo Ren was actually Luke Skywalker, and they did 30 different videos of the way he held his lightsaber in this shot in the trailer was how Luke held his lightsaber in this scene from Return of the Jedi. I mean, ridiculous, over-the-top stuff, and I feel like that kind of stuff is what really hurt the movies. in the eyes of the fans because they had their headcanon and it didn't match up to what they wanted. And they were let down. So hopefully this doesn't hurt that. I hope it doesn't, because I've been completely okay with these new Star Wars movies. Next up, in movie news. So, it's been rumored time and time again. Fans have petitioned from one side of the verse to the other. You can't stop the signal. That's right, I'm talking about Firefly. It has been almost 15 years since the 2005 Serenity follow-up movie. And Joss Whedon has mentioned briefly in the past that he'd entertain the idea of bringing the series back in some format, as long as the original cast is involved. Recently, Summer Glau, who played River Tam on the series, voiced the character in the audio drama Alternus, and she feels that that would be a good format for Firefly continuation. Funny enough, this very topic was one that I wanted to ask Jewel State at VisionCon this year, but unfortunately I was not able to get an interview with her. I believe personally that if a Kickstarter were to be started for a Firefly animation or another video game or even an audio drama, it would get funded. Like, browncoats flock to their own. And I personally love audio dramas. I still have the original audio dramas of Star Wars that they did. And my old drama teacher in high school gave me those once because he knew I was a huge Star Wars fan and I was really getting into audio dramas, and he had the MP3s of it and he burned them off onto a disc for me, and I probably listened to those like, oh my god, probably at least like 50 to 60 times a piece. Super cool stuff. So I love audio dramas, and I would love to have a Firefly audio drama. I know at one point in time the cast had lent their voices to Firefly Online, but that game had major development issues and it was never released. So it's not completely unlikely that the cast would reunite for something like an audio drama. I know a lot of them have gone on to different projects. A lot of them are super busy, but I do know that they do like to randomly just have get-togethers. So I know that they're always still in contact with each other. So it's not unlikely that something like this could happen. And lastly, in movie news, this story will go out to the 30 and up aged audience of this podcast. Do you remember New Coke? Do you remember how not great it was, to the point that 3 months after release that they pulled it off the shelves? Well, due to season 3 of Stranger Things taking place in the year of 1985, you know, the year of Nintendo, Back to the Future, and New Coke, Coca-Cola is bringing back that formula for a limited time. Now, I was born in the time after things such as New Coke and Crystal Pepsi. I was born in 1988. And with Pepsi bringing back Crystal Pepsi for a limited time, I was able to try it, and it was pretty delicious. Now, I'm totally down with trying out the reissue of New Coke. Hey, I mean, I still drink Tab. Like, they brought Tab back, and Surge, and like all these older sodas, and they're phenomenal. So why can't New Coke try to make a comeback? Come on. My taste buds are so ready. So this concludes this episode of the Scruffy Looking Nerd Herders podcast. This is a short one. I know it is, and I apologize. Like I said, I'm trying to get stuff in order and resituate stuff that has been turned upside down, and I'm trying to flip it right side back up. So hopefully, like I said, next week I can get the history of episode completed and have that out for you guys. But I do want to say, once again, thank you so much for your support. If you like what you have heard, please follow, subscribe, review, all that good stuff. Share with your friends. I am on iTunes, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Stitcher, Podbean, and YouTube. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to put my Twitch stream on hold yet once again. So, I'm sorry. But be sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at SLNH Podcast for updates on that stuff. And if you would like to pick up some merch, there's a link in the description. I still have the original Nerd Herders logo that I had. with the Star Wars theme, and I still have the Avengers one up there. I'm trying to work on getting another one with the newest logo on there as well. But there's a link in the description, so if you want some merch, go check it out. There's shirts, stickers, phone cases, all sorts of stuff. And thank you so much for your reviews and your comments. It really helps me grow the podcast and get better. And if you want the podcast to grow and you're on iTunes, just go give a 5-star rating, and that helps bump me up in this category that I'm in, which unfortunately I'm in a category with an infinite amount of live play D&D stuff, so I get drowned out pretty quickly. So that would really help me bump up into the ratings and get more people to see it, more people to listen, and it can continue to grow from there. So thank you guys so much for all your support. Guys, this is Tyler from the Scruffy Looking Nerd Herders podcast signing off, and Nerd Herders, assemble!